I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I want to get this all out because I honestly don't know what else to do. I was with Claire for about 3 years. We got engaged about 6 months ago, and everything seemed perfect, or at least that's what I wanted to believe. She's attractive, smart, and in the beginning she was pretty charming. I met her through a friend of mine, Mike, who's also her coworker. Things moved fast, and we got engaged pretty quickly. I thought I'd found the one. But lately, I'd started noticing small things that didn't add up. She'd suddenly be super distant sometimes, cancel plans last minute, or get really defensive when I'd ask what was wrong. I chalked it up to wedding stress or work stuff. Women get like that, right? Plus, she'd get kinda bitchy out of nowhere, snapping at me over nothing, which was really unusual for her. I remember one night she snapped at me over something so trivial I couldn't even remember what it was now, but she threw a glass of wine in my face and stormed out. That was the first real sign I missed. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. But no, I was blinded by the idea of us being perfect. Then, just a few days before the wedding, I found something that changed everything. I was staying over at her place, helping her pack or whatever, and I happened to grab her phone to get a charger. I don't usually snoop, but I've seen enough movies to know that if you're suspicious, sometimes you gotta look. So I unlocked her phone. She's got a pattern lock, but I knew her code. It's her birthday, pretty dumb, I know, but I never thought she'd cheat on me. When I scrolled through her messages, I saw a bunch of texts that didn't sit right. There was flirtatious stuff with her coworker, Mike. Yeah, the same guy I trusted and had introduced her to. At first, I thought maybe it was just friendly banter, but then I noticed the timing. They'd been texting nonstop during the days leading up to the wedding. I saw messages that were clearly more than just friends. There were mentions of meeting up, talking about how good it felt, stuff that made my stomach turn. What made me feel worse was that she'd also been hiding a bunch of messages in a hidden folder I didn't even know existed. I found it by chance while fumbling through her apps. There were secret messages, even more explicit. She'd been lying right to my face, telling me everything was fine. I saw their plans, their little secret exchanges, the way she was constantly trying to hide it. I felt like I was hit by a truck. I couldn't breathe. I was just sitting there, staring at all of it, my mind racing, trying to process what I'd just uncovered. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was right there in black and white. I remember feeling numb, like I'd been punched in the gut, but also furious. How could she do this? How could she be so bitchy and manipulative, lying about everything? She had this way of pretending to be innocent, acting like I was the crazy one when I'd ask her about her strange behavior. But I knew the truth now. I wasn't dreaming. She was cheating on me with my best friend during our engagement party. I was dumbfounded, completely taken aback. I couldn't sleep that night, replaying the images in my head, feeling betrayed on every level. That's where I am now, still trying to process it all. I keep asking myself how I missed the signs, how I let her get so close, only for her to stab me in the back. I thought I knew her, but I guess I was just fooling myself. I can't tell if I want to scream, cry, or just disappear. All I know is that I need to figure out what I'm going to do next because the trust is gone, and I feel like I've been played for a fool. After I found those messages, everything changed. I couldn't even look at her the same way. My mind was racing, trying to piece together how she could lie so blatantly. She was sitting there, acting like nothing was wrong, trying to make me believe she was the perfect wife to be. I remember her big, fake smile when I confronted her about the messages. Her eyes darted around, trying to come up with some excuse, some bullshit story to explain away what I'd seen. She looked at me like I was stupid, like I was the one overreacting or making a big deal out of nothing. She said she was just talking, that Mike was just a friend, that I was overthinking, that she never actually cheated, just some innocent flirtation. Yeah, right. She even had the nerve to call me insecure, said she was trying to figure out why I was so paranoid. It took every ounce of strength I had not to explode right then. I felt the heat rising in my chest, my fists clenched so tight I thought I'd break my knuckles. But I kept my cool because I knew if I lost it, I'd do something I'd regret. She kept lying, spinning her story about how it was a mistake, how she didn't mean for it to go this far. She claimed she loved me and never wanted to hurt me, the usual bullshit. That she was just drunk at the engagement party, that Mike was just there as a friend, and somehow that made it all okay. Yeah, I'd heard enough. I told her she could keep her lies, that I didn't want to hear any more. I told her I needed some time to think, to process, but inside I was already boiling with rage. I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs. Why did she get so bitchy lately? Why was she so defensive? I remembered the nights she was working late, the calls she'd sneak around to take, the way she'd avoid my eyes sometimes. I had dismissed all of it because I wanted to believe she was innocent, but I wasn't blind anymore. I knew the truth. She was cheating on me with my best friend. It was like the ground had shifted under me and I didn't know what was real anymore. The worst part, I felt this deep, crushing sadness, not just anger but heartbreak. I thought I loved her, and now I realized I'd been so stupid. I let her manipulate me into trusting her blindly. All those nights I stayed up worrying about whether she was hiding something. All those moments I brushed off her bitchy attitude as just wedding stress. I was wrong. She was lying to my face, had been lying for months, maybe longer. I started thinking about what I should do next. Part of me wanted to go ballistic, to confront her in front of everyone at the wedding, expose her in front of our family and friends. But then I thought, what good would that do? Would she even care? Would she even feel guilty? Honestly, I don't think she felt a damn thing. She just kept trying to brush me off, acting like she was the victim here, like I was the one overreacting. So I decided I'd keep quiet for now. I needed to get my head straight. I didn't want to make any rash decisions. I felt like I was walking around like a zombie, trying to figure out what my life was supposed to look like after this. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, how someone I loved and trusted could betray me so deeply. I was furious at Mike, furious at Claire, furious at myself for not seeing it sooner. But the thing is, I also felt a strange sense of relief. Maybe now I could finally see her for what she really was. Maybe I'd stop wasting my time trying to fix something that was already broken beyond repair. I just needed time. Time to breathe, to process, to figure out if I even wanted to salvage this mess. Right now I just felt numb. My mind kept circling back to that betrayal, replaying every moment, every lie, every secret message I'd uncovered. And honestly, I don't know what's worse, the betrayal or the fact that I still care enough to feel this hurt. I thought I was strong, but right now, I feel like I'm just a shell of myself. I keep asking myself if I should just walk away and forget her, or if I should try to confront her again. Either way, I know one thing. My trust is shattered, and I don't think I can ever look at her the same way again. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that fake smile she threw at me when I confronted her. I kept going over everything I'd discovered, trying to find some way to make sense of it all. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach repeatedly, like my entire world had been turned upside down. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let her get this close, only for her to betray me in such a cruel way. I remember trying to act normal around my friends and family, but inside I was a mess. I felt so betrayed, so stupid. I kept going back to that moment when I found her phone, the moment I saw the secret messages. That was the moment my whole world shattered. I wanted to scream at her, to shake her and demand she tell me the truth. But at the same time, I was scared of what I might do if I lost control. I felt like I was walking a tightrope, balancing between anger and heartbreak. One thing I couldn't understand was her attitude. She kept insisting she loved me, that it was just a mistake, that she never meant to hurt me. But if she loved me, why did she cheat? Why did she lie? And the worst part was that she tried to brush it off, act like it was no big deal, that she had been drunk, that she was confused. How could someone say that after they'd been caught red-handed? It's like she was trying to gaslight me into believing her lies, trying to make me doubt what I saw with my own eyes. I also couldn't help but notice how she was acting even more bitchy and dismissive. Every time I tried to talk about the betrayal, she'd roll her eyes or snap at me. It was like she didn't care, like she was already over it, like I was the one making a scene. That made me even angrier. How could she just dismiss this so easily? Did she even feel guilty? Or was she just good at pretending? I kept thinking about how she'd been lying to me all along, hiding her secret life behind that fake smile. In the middle of all this chaos, I started planning what to do next. Part of me still hoped I could fix things, maybe forgive her someday. But then I remembered that phone, those secret messages, and I knew I couldn't pretend I didn't see what I saw. How could I go on pretending everything was normal? I'd be a fool to believe her anymore. I realized I had two choices. I could try to work it out, or I could cut ties and walk away. Honestly, at that point, walking away seemed like the only sane option. The thing that hurt the most was the betrayal from someone I trusted so deeply, my best friend Mike. I used to think he was a good guy, someone I could count on. But he turned out to be just as manipulative and deceitful as Claire. I kept asking myself how he could do this to me, my own best friend. How he could sleep with my fiancée just days before our wedding. That's the kind of thing that doesn't just hurt. It destroys everything you thought was real. I felt like I'd been stabbed in the back by the two people I cared about most. I was angry, confused, and heartbroken all at once. I couldn't understand how they could be so selfish, so callous. I kept replaying that night at the engagement party, picturing her flirting with him, laughing, pretending everything was fine. And then I remembered how I was drunk, so drunk I barely remembered what I said or did. I thought maybe I was just too wasted to notice her sneaking around. But now I realize I was just blind. I was too blinded by love to see the truth. Now I'm stuck in this terrible limbo, not knowing whether to fight for her or walk away for good. My mind is a mess. Part of me wants to confront her again, to demand answers, to get her to admit everything. But I also fear that no matter what she says, it won't change anything. The trust is gone. The love I had feels like it's been shredded into tiny pieces, scattered everywhere. And yet a small voice inside keeps telling me I can't just forget it. I need to figure out who I am now, after being betrayed so badly, after realizing the person I loved was just a liar and a cheat. I guess I'm just trying to stay grounded, trying to keep from falling apart entirely. I want to believe I can come out of this stronger, but right now, I just feel broken. All I know is that I'll never look at her the same way again. And Mike, don't even get me started. He's dead to me now. Sometimes I think I should just cut her out of my life completely, but part of me still hopes that one day I'll find a way to move past this. The pain is real and it's deep. I don't even know if I'll ever fully recover. All I know is I've got to figure out what's next because I can't keep living in this chaos forever. The more I thought about everything, the clearer it became that I couldn't stay in this limbo forever. I kept replaying that night in my head, the moment I saw her messages, the way she lied so effortlessly. It was like waking up from a nightmare I couldn't escape. My trust was shattered, and every time I looked at her, I saw this different person, not the woman I thought I knew, but someone manipulative, selfish, and willing to betray everything we built. I knew deep down I had to make a decision. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. The pain of betrayal was too raw, too real. I started thinking about what I really wanted. Did I want to fight for her, to work through the mess, or was it better to cut my losses and move on? The truth was, I felt exhausted. I didn't have the strength to keep pretending I was okay. Every time I saw her bitchy attitude, her dismissiveness, I felt more distant. It was like she was already checked out, already over me, even though she kept saying she loved me. That didn't add up anymore. One night I finally sat her down and told her I needed space. I told her I couldn't be around her right now, that I needed time to process what I'd learned. She tried to argue, of course, spinning her lies and saying it was all a mistake. She even had the nerve to ask me if I still loved her. I looked her right in the eyes and told her I didn't know if I ever really did, that her betrayal changed everything. I told her I wanted to see if there was still a chance to fix this, or if it was better to just cut ties before I completely lost myself. She looked at me with that fake, bitchy smile, like she was trying to manipulate her way out of it. She kept saying she loved me, that she was sorry, that she'd do anything to make it right. But I didn't buy it. I felt nothing but cold bitterness. I told her I'd think about it, that I needed some time alone, and that I'd get back to her. That was the last thing I said to her face for a while. During that time, I started reflecting on how I got here. I thought about all the little signs I ignored, All the time she snapped at me for no reason, how she'd act like the victim when I'd ask her what was wrong. I realized I'd been so blinded by love that I ignored the red flags. It's funny how love can make you so stupid. I kept asking myself why I was so naive, why I hadn't seen her true colors sooner. The more I thought, the angrier I got at myself for trusting her so blindly. But then, a strange calm started to settle in. I realized that I didn't want to be with someone who could betray me like that. Someone who could lie so effortlessly, who could cheat on me with my best friend, and then look me in the eye and deny everything. That kind of betrayal was toxic. It made me question everything about who I was and what I deserved. I deserved better. I deserved someone honest, loyal, and true. I started to understand that holding onto her was only going to hurt me more in the long run. The hardest thing was accepting that I might lose her forever. I'd loved her, I had plans with her, I'd even imagined us growing old together. And now, all that was gone. It felt like I was grieving for a person who didn't really exist, a ghost of who I thought she was. I started thinking about what I would do next, whether I'd try to fix this or just walk away and forget her. Honestly, part of me wanted to run, to disappear somewhere far away from this pain. But I knew I had to face the truth. I needed to start rebuilding my life without her. In the end, I decided I'd give myself some time. I'd stay away from her, block her on everything, and try to heal. I didn't want to rush into anything, whether that meant fighting to save us or just walking away for good. I knew I had to take care of myself first, and honestly, that's where I am now, trying to find some clarity, trying to find who I am after all this chaos, because I can't keep living in this emotional wreckage forever. I can't pretend I'm okay when inside, I feel like I've been torn apart. Whatever the future holds, I know I have to come to terms with this betrayal, because I refuse to be someone's fool anymore. The time I spent alone was probably the hardest of my life. Every day felt like a battle between anger and sadness. I kept asking myself if I should try to forgive her, if there was any way to salvage what little was left of us. But deep down, I knew that trust, once broken this badly, is almost impossible to rebuild. I kept replaying everything. Her lies, her bitchy attitude, the secret messages, all of it. It felt like I was slowly losing my mind trying to piece it all together. I also started thinking about Mike, my so-called best friend. I always thought friends were supposed to have your back, but he ended up sleeping with my fiancée just days before our wedding. That betrayal cut deeper than I ever expected. I kept asking myself how he could do that to me, how he could be such a piece of shit. I remembered all the times we hung out, the advice he gave me about relationships, and now I realize it was all a lie. He was just waiting for the right moment to stab me in the back. Honestly, that hurt almost as much as Claire's lies. I decided I had to cut all contact with her. No texts, no calls, nothing. I blocked her on social media, deleted her number, and even changed my phone number. I didn't want to see her anymore, didn't want to hear her voice. I wanted to erase her from my life so I could start healing. But even in doing that, I felt like I was losing part of myself. I was angry at her, furious at Mike, but I was also angry at me for trusting them so blindly. I'd let myself believe in fairy tales, and this was the brutal wake-up call. One night, I sat on my balcony, drinking a beer and staring at the stars. I knew I had to make a choice, whether to move on and forget her, or to try and fix the wreckage. But honestly, right then, I realized I didn't want to be with someone who could cheat on me, lie so effortlessly, and then act like the victim. I deserved better than that. I deserved someone who was loyal, honest, and true. I started to think about all the things I'd lost, my trust, the person I thought she was, my best friend. It was a heavy weight, but I also felt a strange sense of relief, like I was finally waking up from a nightmare. The decision became clear. I wouldn't chase her. I wouldn't try to fix what was broken. Instead, I'd focus on myself, my healing, my happiness. I knew I had to learn to live with the pain, to accept that sometimes love just isn't enough. I promised myself I wouldn't let this define me, even if it broke me for a while. I was going to rebuild, piece by piece, and come out stronger on the other side. Because if there's one thing I learned from all this, it's that people can betray you in ways you never imagined, but you don't have to let that break you entirely. So I made the decision to leave that chapter behind me. It was time to move forward no matter how much it hurt. I was hurt, angry, and betrayed all at once. But I also knew that I deserved better, that I needed to focus on myself, my future, and find a way to forgive myself for trusting the wrong people. I don't know what's coming next, but I do know I won't be that naive guy who believed in fairy tales anymore. Whatever happens, I'll face it alone if I have to, because I refuse to be a victim of their lies forever. Now it's just me, my scars, and the hope that someday I'll find happiness again. So here I am, months later, trying to make sense of everything. The truth is, I still feel the sting of betrayal every single day. But I also feel a strange sense of relief, like I finally woke up from a nightmare I'd been living in for too long. I've learned a lot from all this, even if it's been the hardest lesson of my life. I used to believe in fairy tales about love, loyalty, and happily ever after, but now I know better. Trust isn't given blindly, it's earned. And once it's broken, everything changes. I've come to realize that a relationship based on lies and betrayal is doomed from the start. You can't build anything real on a foundation of deceit. That's why I decided to walk away and focus on myself. I started doing things I loved, hiking, working out, reconnecting with old friends I'd neglected because I was so absorbed in pleasing her. Slowly, I began to rebuild my confidence, piece by piece. It's not easy, and honestly I still get flashes of anger and sadness, but I refuse to let those define me. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the warning signs sooner. I wish I hadn't ignored her bitchy attitude or the way she was dodging my questions. But I also forgive myself for being naive because love can blind you. Still, I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean you should ignore your gut or dismiss red flags just to hold on to a dream. That lesson hurts, but it's necessary. I'll never trust blindly again, and I'll be more cautious about who I let into my life. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, I want you to know one thing: you're not alone. Betrayal cuts deep and it leaves scars that take time to heal, but you're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're the problem. Sometimes people are just selfish and manipulative, and you have to walk away before they ruin you. Protect yourself, love yourself enough to say no, and never settle for less than you deserve. I'm still healing, still trying to find my way, but I know I'll get there. I'll find happiness again, even if it's not with her or with my so-called best friend. I've learned that real love isn't about possession or lies. It's about honesty, loyalty, and respect. Those are the things I want, and I know now that I won't accept anything less. So if you're reading this and you're hurting, just remember, you're not broken. You're just scarred. And scars mean you've survived. You've learned, you've grown, and one day you'll find your peace. I may never fully forget what happened, but I'm choosing to move forward anyway. Because life is too short to dwell on the past, especially when it's filled with betrayal and lies. The future is uncertain, but I'm finally ready to face it, stronger and wiser.